Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Happy Wednesday evening. Hope you guys have had a great day out there. A great start to your first week of August. This is the first evening video of August. And really tonight we're going to discuss the tropics. And then towards the second half of the video, we're going to talk about the ongoing drought conditions and specifically in areas of Texas. And we're just going to break down a couple things, talk about is there any rain in the foreseeable future predicted? We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to take a look at a weather station in Texas and really just get a general good idea of the lack of rain that's been in certain areas of Texas. It's really an issue that I don't feel like is being discussed enough. So we'll talk about it in the second half of the video. But in the first half, we're going to talk about the tropics. Over the last 24 hours, I'm not saying the tropics is coming alive in the medium to long-term forecast as we get into the middle part of August, but you're starting to see hints that as we're starting to kind of slowly climb towards peak hurricane season, which is towards the end of August, really the beginning of September, you're starting to see signs that maybe things are going to slowly start to wake up here in the next 7 to 10 days. So we're going to talk about that. Is there any immediate threats? Absolutely not. So just remind you guys that anything you see, that is not a forecast. We're just taking a look at models. So if you have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I appreciate the support. I really do. It's been slow last few months. I was expecting that over the summer months, but things are looking to pick up here soon. But definitely like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling here. So what I can tell you is the National Hurricane Center predicts nothing in the next 5 days. No new tropical cyclones are expected during the next 5 days. So I don't really see anything expected as far as a name forming. Next name is Danielle, the D name in the hurricane alphabet, really in the next 10 days, more than likely. But you're starting to see hints, like I said, that as we get into the middle part of the month, things might slowly, when I tell you slowly, I mean it, slowly start to wake up. What's going on out there this evening for your Wednesday evening? Really, there's a cool little feature right here, a little upper level low. We'll see what this can do. I think it was Tropical Storm Danny last year that this kind of formed the same way. You had a little upper level low that turned into a tropical wave or vice versa, and it actually turned into a tropical disturbance, made landfall in and around the Savannah area. Was not an impactful event at all, but it was a surprise event, just like kind of Tropical Storm Colin was a little bit earlier this summer. So is anything expected like that out of this? Probably not, but it's a cool little feature here on Water Vapor Loop. Really, the rest of the tropical Atlantic, the MDR, is completely shut down as of right now. You can see the darker shades of color. That is where more dry air is. But even when you see these areas right in here, that is still dry air. You're not going to have any tropical development right now. The MDR, like I say, the main development region, the tropical Atlantic, nothing really going on. You got a wave coming off the coast of North Africa, but it's going to fizzle apart. It's going to dry out, essentially. So other than that, there's really just not anything going on. It's pretty slow out here. It really is. And we'll continue to be slow over the next probably week. But like I said, check this out. So first off, we're going to look at the 12Z GFS. This is not the most recent one. The recent one is actually currently running as I speak right now. And once we get to this tab, hopefully a lot of the run, the reliable, decently reliable part of the run will be ran already. So let's take a look at the GFS. This was the loudest GFS as far as probably one of the most active runs this hurricane season altogether. Like I said, since, well, hurricane season started. And here we go. We're going to start this off by really this evening. And here you go. You see an L down here. That doesn't mean anything. Don't pay attention to this, but we're starting to get into this weekend. We get into early part of next week. Stick with me, guys, too, also. I'm going to show you some information that might help you kind of understand what's going on here and give you an idea what the models are showing for sure. But keep your eyes kind of on this area right here. There is going to be something that's going to catch your eye right here also. We're getting to around this time next week. You're watching this feature right here, and I can tell you the European has this and the latest GFS has this. This is a tropical wave forming. Is this going to be a tropical wave that makes the whole entire track of the North Atlantic? I doubt it. I really do. But I have a feeling that this could be, potentially, not saying it is, but potentially could be a tone setter for what happens behind it. But here it is. This little tropical wave kind of forms. You don't even see a low pressure, but there is a weak vortice down here. And this continues, pops off that L that kind of lets us know that, hey, this is some kind of tropical disturbance. At the same time, you got a weak tropical wave in the middle of the main development region, the tropical Atlantic. Then you have a piece of energy that forms kind of in the northeast part of the Gulf of Mexico, rides over the peninsula of Florida, gets off the coast of Georgia and the Carolinas, and this actually turns probably into a full all-out tropical storm 11 to 12 days out. This is one operational run of the GFS. It's not reliable, but it just tells you that, hey, maybe things are starting to get active again, because kind of the first step is, listen, the GFS isn't showing fantasy storms. That really should tell you that things are really shut off as far as tropical activity. And let me tell you, the GFS has been very quiet for about a month and some change now, at least. It's kind of shown a fluke run here and there, and this could be a fluke run. But I was just looking at the recent GFS, and it's coming in with kind of the same scenario, and we'll show you here in a second. But the European ensembles show this little feature too. This would, if this was to happen, the GFS, this would have a tropical storm strengthening off the coast of North Carolina around the August 14th, 15th time frame, so around the mid-month time frame. But it looks like it's heading out to sea, and as a full-fledged hurricane, by the way, way off the coast of the Northeast, not bothering really anybody. But it's interesting because we're starting to see flashes in the long range that the tropics is starting to heat back up. This is just your first sign. Just like, the GFS in the winter. It shows those winter storms 240, 280 hours out. And of course, most of us are not gullible enough to believe that's going to happen. I would hope not. But it could sometimes, if you see it consistently, kind of tell us that the pattern that's setting up. I'm not saying this is the pattern that's setting up, but a lot of guidance outside of just regular model guidance shows that things are going to pick up in the second half of August. So here it goes. You got this wave that's trying to get its act together. It looks like a depression or tropical storm that's about to enter the Lesser Antilles and start to get into the Greater Antilles as we get into, way out here, the 10 to 15 day range. But once you get past, I would say 180 hours out, everything becomes very unreliable. So just something to watch. We look at the European. What does the operational European run show? Well, here we go. We're getting into early next week. Here's that wave. Keep your eyes on this. Same kind of feature. Shows a weak tropical wave kind of making its way, struggling across the tropical Atlantic. It's really having a hard time getting its act together. At the same time, it doesn't really show the same feature that the GFS shows, but it does show an influx of a lot of moisture. But it certainly doesn't show an all-out hurricane like the GFS shows off the coast of the East Coast here. But it does show a big plume of moisture associated with a tropical wave, very weak, starting to flirt with the Lesser Antilles as we get into about day 10. But nothing crazy showing up on the operational European run. Now, one thing I want to notice here, and this is the 18Z. Now, I know for this, a lot of people, this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense, but I'm going to try to make it make sense, if you will. This is the 850 millibar of vortices right here. So this is about, give or take, a mile up in the atmosphere. So it's trying to figure out where there's a spin in the atmosphere, in the low levels. So as we're getting into early next week, you see this feature right into here. You see these just more vibrant colors of yellow, orange, almost red. So if you look at the wind barbs, you got, I'm trying to find and stop it where you had the best example of this. Right. Let's try to do it right here. Yeah, right here. So you see the wind barbs right here. You got winds coming out of this direction. It's going to be very hard to see, but if you keep your eyes right here, you see how you have the wild area of the wind barb pointing this way. That means winds are coming around this. This tells us that there's a weak rotation right here, a weak vortice, a weak spin, if you will, out here. That symbolizes a weak tropical wave. And the wind, the wind directions are coming out this way, then this way, and then it just kind of gets everywhere. But that's what we see with weak tropical waves. And in general, just think of this as a weak piece of energy out here that has a little bit of a low-level spin. So this is kind of what we look at, what we can look at, out of many things that we can look at. So you look at this, you back this up one run to the 12Z. Notice it looks a lot weaker. Then you back it up to the 06Z. It looks a lot more flat, right? Then you go to the OOZ run, which was overnight run last night. There's basically nothing. You start to get into the runs from yesterday, nothing really out here. And then you fast forward all the way to the current run, and you got something showing up. Do you call this a trend? I don't think so. I really don't. But there's something getting sniffed out here on the models. I can tell you that. So this is weathermodels.com, weathernerds.com, which is a pretty cool site. It's a little tricky to use at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's awesome. You can make custom satellite loops and custom areas out here. But anyways, this is the European ensembles, which is crazy because it kind of picks up on the same thing that the GFS picks up on, but the actual main operational run of the European really doesn't like the idea of anything popping off here. But it shows a little feature, maybe in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, maybe rides over portions of the southeast, pops off the coast of the southeast, and maybe develops into something. So remember, this isn't multiple storm systems everywhere you see an L. This is basically an ensemble run that's made out of a kind of a line plot, if you will. So it does symbolize a decent signal for a tropical wave out here in the main development region. And this goes all the way out to day 10, which is all the way out to August 13th. So it likes the idea of a tropical wave here. Now, none of this looks dangerous. None of this looks like scary or anything like that. And what I think is what we will see here is this probably will not make it. But if it does, I will be kind of surprised. But what I watch here is to see if this sacrifices itself as far as a moisture bubble for anything that forms behind it. And that would make more sense because we're starting to get to the second half of August by then. And that's when things are going to pick up inevitably. You know, that's when all these negative factors, it's going to be very hard to really knock against a climatology peak of hurricane season. It's a lot more harder for these things to work against it. But anyways, one thing I do want to show you here really quick is this GIF of the Saharan dust. So if you put your eyes right here, this is flying through the dates, and I think it goes all the way to, I think, the 13th of August. So in general, and then it starts back over to right now, still shows continuous plumes of Saharan dust. This is continuing to make a hostile environment for these tropical systems. They don't like this. It dries the atmosphere up, creates sinking air, and you need rising air for convection, showers, and storms. So in general, this is continuing, but this isn't all uncommon. I mean, this happens. Even in the peak of hurricane season, you have little small plumes of Saharan dust. But what happens as we get into the second, third week of August? Does this lighten up, if you will? Are these plumes of Saharan dust a lot more not as thick, if you will? But we'll have to watch this. But it continues to show little small to mediocre plumes of Saharan dust working its way through. One thing we watch here is the European EPS ensembles for the percent chance of a tropical depression forming. That is below tropical storm status. So tropical depression is not a named system. So we're getting into about the 120 to 168 hour time frame. So this is sitting, between the here in the next several days, sometime next week. There is a mediocre chance of a tropical depression forming. Even if you look around Cuba, Dominican Republic, a low-end signal here. But around here, you got that 35-40% chance of it forming. But as we're getting into around the 12th, 13th of August time frame, the signal kind of increases. We're starting to get into the 14th. This is not this weekend, but next weekend. Starting to get a stronger signal of 40 to 50% chance of a depression forming. And this is just one ensemble run. It doesn't mean that it's going to carry on to tonight's run. But then we're moving forward, and we're about 240 hours out at this point. But it just shows that, hey, maybe things are starting to slowly uptick. So it's just something we watch. So what you're about to see is new data to me because, as you can tell, these little things right here are the new updated panels that just came out before I even made the video. So this is the latest GFS, and let's just take a look and see what this shows compared to the 12Z. So if we're going through in time, this goes 250 hours out, shows this wave down here. Let's just go on and kind of knock this down here a little bit. Shows this wave. We're rolling through here in time. And let's not make it go too far because I kind of want to know what time frame we're at. Shows plumes of moisture into the southeast. We'll watch that because sometimes when you get plumes of moisture into the Gulf of Mexico, especially this time of the year, And something I haven't mentioned is the Gulf of Mexico, because it has not been bothered, is really heating up. I mean, it seems some buoys out there are probably approaching over 90 degrees. So you got bath water in the Gulf of Mexico, just ready to be tapped into. But anyways, here you go. GFS popping out low pressure right here as we get into about 7 to 8 days from now. How much does this hold together? Well, the latest GFS really does not show it holding together. Like if you back it up one run to 12Z, it shows it shows a faster evolution. From what I can tell right here, and guys, I'm doing this on the fly here. From what I can tell, if you back it up to the 12Z from the lunchtime model, you have this, and this is the current run. So it has whatever forming faster, and then really diminishing. So, I would say in the medium term, the vorticity looks better, but once you start to get out to the long range, like 200, 240, 260 hours out, it really wants to fizzle this thing out. But what happens after this? So I'm going to be very interested here, honestly. What happens with the overnight runs into tomorrow? Really throughout the rest of the week, the work week. What does this look like? Because we kind of had this about 10 to 14 days ago, if you remember, where it looked like things were about to start to uptick, and then the models just did away with it. In fact, the European led the way with that, and the GFS held its ground, and GFS won. And the European was wrong, but we just got to see what's going to happen. So that's a tropical update, guys. I'm going to continue to watch this. Could turn out this time tomorrow, it could be totally quiet again. There's a strong possibility of that. So we'll continue to watch this. Let's talk about you folks in Texas. And I'm really just going to focus in on Texas. I apologize if you're in Oklahoma and you feel left out with this, but I want to talk about Texas here for a second. So D4, D3, D2, D1, DO. So, the higher up you go, you get into D4, you're in what you call an exceptional drought, which to me, an extreme drought sounds scarier than an exceptional drought. But, I'm not necessarily the most smartest person when it comes to wording. But the dark red is where you are just in a very bad drought, a very, very bad drought. And what I didn't know is there's areas in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, especially south of town, that have not seen rain in over 60 days. So, honestly, this is pretty bad. It really is. It looks very splotchy. Certain counties, for example, are much more drier than, maybe a couple counties northwest of you. Eastern portions of Texas are certainly not as bad off as maybe north central areas and central and south central areas of Texas. And then there's west central areas of Texas that are really bad also. But Dallas-Fort Worth, points south, really is the epicenter. I wouldn't say the epicenter, but definitely a hot spot for drought conditions. So how much rain could y'all expect? And stick with me. I'm going to show you a weather station out the Hillsboro, Texas area and really give you a good idea of how the lack of rain has been seen. So this is the GEFS ensembles of rainfall between now and the next week for Texas. It really wants to keep all the rain for southeast Texas along the coastal regions and just extreme southeast areas of Texas along the coast. But once you work your way north, and especially once you work your way west and northwest, the chances of seeing rain really significantly drop. So I can tell you between now and the next 7 days, and I'm not going to go any further out than that because it becomes unreliable territory, the chances of rain look pretty low. I don't see any kind of widespread drought buster rain. I can tell you that. You look at the European ensembles for the kind of the same time frame. The European ensembles want to throw a little bit more rain, a little bit further, deeper into Texas. So we're pulling for that, but still, for areas that are drought-stricken, not a lot. So this is an ensemble run. It's trying to predict multiple runs and how much rain can fall. So I think for the areas that are most driest, look to have the less chance to see rain. So we'll continue to figure out what's going to happen. I've seen many cases where there's an area that's really, really dry, and suddenly a big tropical storm or hurricane knocks an area out of a drought, just like that. But then you get all the rain at one time, and that's not how you need it. You need a nice soaking rain in these areas, but I'm sure y'all will take anything y'all can get. So Really praying for you guys. Thinking about you guys a lot lately. That's why I've been mentioning you guys a lot in my videos, and it just sucks. It's unfortunate, that you guys are just stuck in an awful pattern where you just cannot shake this ridge of high pressure. So this is a weather station right in and around the Hillsboro, Texas area. If you don't know where that is, it's south of Dallas, right in the area where we have an exceptional drought. So this is monthly statistics of this month, of 2 months ago. This was for June 1st through June 30th, the entire month of June. So here it is. The highest temperature this particular weather station reached was 104.5. The lowest temperature they saw was 66 degrees. And the rain they got was about 1 3/4 inches. So 1.78 inches of rain. Now look at this. All of this rain, but this little 2/100ths of an inch of rain fell on Friday, June the 3rd. So they got what looks like probably a storm that dumped a lot of rain, that dumped almost 1.5 inches of rain on you guys. So, right, so think about it. This is June 3rd. So no rain. I wouldn't even count this. This was probably, a bird could have pooped in their weather station and it set off this amount of rain. Who knows? I'm trying to make a joke out of it, but chances are that was a rain shower that accumulated to that little bit of rain, but not a lot, right? It's pointless to even count that. So no rain the rest of the month of June. We get into July, all right, last month. So they got almost 1/4 inch of rain, right? That 1/4 inch of rain, 99% of it fell on Thursday, July the 14th, but right in the middle of the month, but nothing leading up to it. So they didn't get rain really for about 5 weeks in this area. And they have not got rain since this rain in July 14th, and we're all the way getting into August 3rd. So in a nutshell, they've had, they've had 2 inches of rain, 2 inches of rain since May 24th. And it's not like it's been rationed out well. It really hasn't. It all really fell on 2 different days in summer. This is all the way back to May 1st, which is basically spring, back over to spring. So it tells you now, I bet you if I fished around, I could probably find a weather station that probably hasn't seen any rain in 2 months. But it goes to show you guys that, these guys have not seen any rain. So that's all I got, guys. This is probably the longest video I've made since probably winter. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hoping we can get some rain here in Texas, and definitely watching the tropics. And by the way, in Hillsboro, Texas, it's 102 degrees right now with no rain in sight. So God bless all y'all. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you guys in the morning.